live stream discussing yacht insurance. We were very curious as to how many people would tune in on this. I see that we already have 4. If you can just confirm that the volume's working and you can hear us, I'd appreciate that. I'll look out for that in your comments. And while I'm waiting for your comments, can I just say and introduce you first of all to John Gaffney.
Hello.
Who is the founder, oh I just need to mute that. He's the founder of Private Insurance Services. And Hugo Jacot, did I pronounce that correctly?
You pronounced that correctly indeed.
Who represents Private Insurance Services in the south of France, but is actually responsible for Europe and the Middle East.
That's correct, yes.
Before we get started though, you and I go back quite a long way, don't we?
Oh my goodness. Yes. It was, I think Moses was a cowboy at that particular time when we met many moons ago. I was a young man and he was, I think he was still in diapers when I first knew it. No, it's been a long time. David and I had a very, very pleasurable time working a lot in Italy with some pretty major yachts, both this side and the other side of the Atlantic.
Yeah, and I remember hearing that you were no longer selling yachts, but you were selling yacht insurance, and I thought, curious choice. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing John Gaffney's doing this, he's doing that, and I'm like, oh my goodness, you've made the right decision there.
It was great. Seriously, it was somewhat of it was definitely a change in direction for me, and not something I was looking to get into. But I'd been in the yacht world for 20 plus years, and then about 8 years or so ago, somebody asked me if I'd be interested in heading up an insurance division. Because they wanted somebody who really knew about yachts, not necessarily just insurance, and I did because I've been a licensed agent and so forth. So I jumped in with both feet, and here we are, a few years down the road, and I've got this wonderful company and these brilliant people working with me.
So Hugo, what do you do? What's your role?
So my role is to look after the client of private insurance services in Europe and also the Middle East. So I'm based in Antibes. Our office is based in Antibes, and that's my role here. We are building up our team, and that's my role here. And I also ended up in insurance, not choosing it initially. I think nobody chose insurance. We all come from different backgrounds, and that's what's interesting about insurance, because we've got people coming from all horizons and ended up in insurance.
Excellent. Well, I'll stop you there because already we have a few comments, and
excellent.
notably Superyacht Captain is watching, who's a client of yours. Did you know that?
Absolutely.
Wonderful.
Tristan Mortlock. He has
Absolutely.
a fantastic YouTube channel.
Captain of Motor AWOL.
AWOL, that's correct.
Absolutely.
So, and Tristan says, good afternoon, gents. So good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to you too, Tristan, and thanks for joining us. Mr. Ollie also says good afternoon. What we're going to do is just explain for those watching a little bit about what John and Hugo do. You're welcome to ask any questions that you want at all. We've got the experts here to answer your questions. But John, first of all, if one of the viewers buys a yacht,
Yep.
at what point do they make the call to you or to Hugo?
Preferably before they've actually purchased the yacht. If you're somebody that is very familiar and been in the yacht industry for a long time, then I'm not going to say that we're going to bring anything to the table. What I would say, if you're fairly new into the mega yacht or super yacht market, because we've been doing it a long time, we know some of the pitfalls. We can very often find out an awful lot about any prospective yacht that you might be looking at, because we have access to all kinds of records and intelligence, and could at least point you in the right direction. The good news is Hugo, the rest of my team, primarily based in the US, but here we're expanding. Hugo's just got another couple of folks coming on board here. We just try and look after our clients, and very often it just starts out with an initial phone call or by chance meeting, and the next thing you know, we become not only clients and providers, but we become really good friends and hopefully a good resource.
Now, let me sort of go back to basics, because I think most people watching this are familiar with car insurance, where you get third-party fire and theft. Fully, I think you use different expressions in the States to that.
Yep.
That's true.
But I insure my yacht. What am I actually insuring? I mean, if it sinks, obviously, one would hope. But what are the major things that people are insuring against?
Yeah.
Well, that's a great question. I'll kind of start it off and then I'll turn it over to the real expert, which is this guy here. But it's multifaceted. Yacht insurance is very, very different to any other insurance. We're not just talking about the yacht itself, which normally would be the hull and machinery, but we have to look at the navigation, we have to look at crew, we have to look at pollution, we have to look at kidnap and ransom, we have to look at cyber.
Kidnap and ransom, yeah.
It's a very, very high topic and something of interest to a lot of people. People sometimes believe that they may have a K&R policy, but what they don't know is it's not actually applicable when you're on a yacht. It's fine while you're on wherever you may be in the world, as long as you're on terra firma.
Let me get that straight. So if I, not that I would do this, of course, but if I kidnap a member of a wealthy family and demand $1 million for you to have that member back, would the insurance then pay up the $1 million? Is that how that works?
If you've done it through your homeowners and part of your umbrella policy, and you're on terra firma, yes. If they happen to be on the yacht and you went and hijacked them from the yacht, then no, that policy's not going to pay out.
Is that only if it's in international waters, or what if it's in territory? It's still
on board the vessel. So yes, it's as long you need to buy a proper maritime policy, maritime K&R policy to have cover. And then as soon as you step on board the vessel, you are covered as long as you purchase that maritime policy. And that is very important to explain to everybody, is that the homeowner policy or the extension to the homeowner policy might not be suited to cover the needs of a maritime risk. So you need to buy a separate policy for your yacht, sometimes a separate liability policy. You need to insure your crew and separate K&R policy. We are talking also about cyber risk. You need potentially to have a separate cyber risk policy, a cyber risk umbrella policy might not cover you when you're on board your yacht. So it's very important that specialized insurance is being purchased for your yacht. And one thing I would always say to yacht owner and to clients is that you have to, first of all, there is 3 basics when you insure your yacht. The hull and machinery, which is a damage to the vessel. You are talking about fire or the loss of the vessel. P&I, protection and indemnity, which is a liability insurance.
So if I run over another boat?
Absolutely. Yeah. You're thinking running over another boat, maybe. So that could be quite substantial damage. But imagine your yacht comes into Monaco and there is a huge cruise ship moored there, and you hit that cruise ship. The cruise ship might be immobilized for several days, months, weeks, and that could cost millions and millions and millions. So that's why it's important to have a specialized liability policy, which is a maritime policy, that will allow you to have the very, very high limit. We are talking $500 million to $1 billion of insurance to cover that liability. Then, and last but not least, crew insurance. Because when you have a large yacht, you can have a crew for sure, but sometimes a large crew. And crew insurance is extremely important because you and I are shore employees, we have health insurance, etc. Crew insurance must be purchased because it is part of a lot of the maritime law ask for the yacht owner to purchase crew insurance for his crew.
So there's a lot to it. I'm gonna stop you there. First of all, to explain that if I'm looking down here, it's because that's where I can read the questions that are coming in.
Yes.
And there's a very interesting question came along very early on. Before I read it to you, though, I want to especially say hi to Rudy. Rudy Debelt, who watches all of the videos, always comments. He's
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
thanks for Rudy for joining us. But the question I want to bring your attention to, if I can find it. Yes, Carlos Trenkamp. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Just a quick question, but not for super yachts. What's the best price segment for insurance of sailboats and sailing yachts? Is there like a limit in feet from where the prices tend to increase a lot? So, you know, if you go over 50 feet, is it all of a sudden much? No?
No, it really, it all depends on the vessel. If you're looking at a yacht, let's say at one end of the scale, you could have, you know, perhaps a J-class racing yacht, carbon fiber, extremely expensive, no matter what size they are, to insure. Why? Because they're so incredibly expensive to repair. It's really, you know, there are certain markets. A good insurance broker would do some research, ask an awful lot of questions, find out everything they need to know about the vessel, about you, about how and where it's going to be sailed, the amount of experience involved, and then we would go to selected markets to get the very best product and to be able to present you. We don't shotgun out to multiple carriers. We're very selective in terms of, we know that carrier A and carrier B would be good potential carriers for that program. So we design the program, go to them, get it quoted, bring it back to you, explain the pros and cons for both policies, and then you can make an educated decision.
Excellent. Now, Anthony McNabb says, I really want to get involved in the yachting industry as a sales broker. How can I do that? So, Anthony, very quick question, very quick answer. I have a whole series of videos about breaking into brokerage. So if you look on my channel, look at breaking into yacht brokerage, there's probably 5 or maybe 6 videos on that. And that's something I may also renew in the near future.
I must just say something.
Yes.
Having known David for many, many years, he was an exemplary yacht broker. He truly was. It was an absolute pleasure to work with. We worked on some pretty big yachts together, and put some very nice deals together. Listen to what he's got to say. He really does know what he's talking about.
Thanks,
so no, it's you can pay me later.
I'll do that. Well, actually, now that you mention that, I should say, because I was supposed to mention this at the beginning, that John has literally just stepped off an aircraft from the United States and was booked into the Meridian Hotel in Nice. Now, we needed to film John for a different video that won't be on this YouTube channel. And so we asked permission of the hotel. Hugo looked after it. And when they heard it was going to be on the Yachts for Sale YouTube channel, what happened?
Oh, they were delighted, and Le Meridian put us in their presidential suite. So thank you very much to Le Meridian for giving us this fantastic view. And viewers, hopefully you'll be able to see some of the view.
I'll pick this up.
It is.
We're in the presidential suite, but have a look at
amazing.
this if I turn it around.
Yes. Didn't show them all the beers.
It's a good job that your wife didn't come out of the
I
bed.
know what she could have done. That could have been
That could have been
fun.
interesting. So that went very well. Upgrade to the presidential suite. So working my way down the questions. Again, Carlos asks the question, how is it with toys on yachts and boats? So the personal watercraft, the tenders, the ribs, the submarines, do they need their own insurance, or is everything included in the insurance of the vessel?
So no, they don't need separate insurance. You need to declare it to your insurer because they may have a view on some toys. There was a lot of discussions in the past few years about drones. Is a drone a toy or is it an aircraft? Careful here. Some insurers consider it as an aviation risk. Some insurers consider it that's fine. They can be on a maritime policy as long as they don't exceed certain criteria. So I know a lot of yacht captains may be watching this. You all have drones. Speak to your insurers so they can check whether that fits within the policy. But toys, seabobs is quite common. Jet skis, tenders. That as long as they are trading with the vessel and not independently, they will be covered within your policy. Just make sure that you declare them.
Great. More questions. Private Security Africa. Very interesting name, Private Security Africa. I bet there's a good story behind that.
Oh, I'm sure.
What do they take in consideration for the international insurances? I'm not sure I completely understand that question, but I'm wondering if it's relating to whether it's more expensive according to the part of the world that the yacht's in, or
it probably really relates back to navigation. As part of your yacht policy, every year you put together a basic navigation plan where you're going to go, and there are some areas that are restricted, i.e. if you go there you're on your own, and they give the long and lat in terms of where you can go and where you can't go. If you want to transit an area, let's say you want to do the Suez Canal, you can absolutely do it, but we have to work on putting a special program in place. They're going to require that you have security on board of the yacht, and they're going to be armed for that transition, whether it be a 7-day or 10-day, whatever, and they have to board the vessel at a given point, and they have to disembark at another designated area.
What's very important is that, like I was just saying for the toys, you have to be in constant discussion with your insurer, because the security company that you are gonna appoint needs to be approved by the insurer. The insurers have lists of security companies that are approved by themselves. So it is very important, once again, that you contact us well in advance, that you give us all the information and the planned route, and then we can help you check that the security company you're talking to, or the armed guard company, like we call them often, is approved by your insurer.
really good.
It's an
interesting topic.
Great question.
I'm going to keep moving because we've got so much questions.
And everybody says yacht insurance is boring.
Apparently
It's really not.
Who knew
It's
people
really
are
not.
interested in insurance?
It's a living thing, you know. When we write a policy at the beginning of the year, it changes throughout the year. We don't. It's not like you sign at the year. Okay, we'll talk to you next year.
Yeah,
No
there
such
was
thing in our world.
beforehand. I was saying I'm not sure if we'll get many questions on this, but we have lots. Christopher Dillard, what is the estimated percentage of yacht insurance? The estimated percentage of yacht insurance that's not paid out for claims. So, are claims always paid out? What sort of percentages are not?
I think the honest question is, if the policy is fully understood by the client, by the captain and by the owners of the vessel, the yacht managers, they know basically what is truly covered. The only time something's not going to be covered is primarily if it wasn't disclosed when the policy was put in place.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
Yes, definitely, or clearly excluded.
Or it is clearly excluded in that particular document. But that's our job, is because of the relationship that we build with all of our clients. We go through it in detail, so you really do know what it is you're purchasing. And if there's, for instance, an exemption whereby you're not able to do X, Y, Z, or if you do, in America, if it happens to be you're navigating the East Coast, there's a lot of restrictions during hurricane season. And some policies will say you need to be north of a particular latitude by 1st of June, and you can't come back down south till November 1st. They know about it, and if they want to do it, we can arrange it. But if you were not to take any notice of that and there was a claim, it would be denied.
And I think as well that insurance companies quite rightly have to be prudent in what they do. And I obviously I can't name names or even tell you the countries, but I was talking to a shipyard owner who had a yacht on his premises dry docked. The owner was in severe financial trouble. He tried to sell it, he couldn't sell it, and lo and behold, it burnt to the ground one day. What the crew didn't realise is that there was CCTV that showed them clearly arriving in a rib with some petrol. And so
I don't think that one got paid.
I think that may have been one of the
denied that claim.
Now, Rudy Deghelt very kindly has sent a €10 super chat. Thanks for that, Rudy. There's really no need. I mean, I appreciate it very much, but always happy to answer your questions. And he says, can we compare car insurance on services? So where do you see the comparisons and where are the differences between car insurance?
Okay, so I'll take that one because
go
that is okay. Car insurance, you're gonna call up your insurer, you're gonna say the brand, the model of the car, they're gonna where it's parked and etc. And then that's it. They're gonna give you a premium. It's done, and that's over. And if you don't have a claim, you don't talk to your insurer for another year. Now, with yacht insurance, it's extremely different because first of all, you're gonna give us all the information. Then we're gonna assess your needs. We're gonna basically, you remember what I was talking about, damage to the vessel, liability, and crew. We're gonna assess each element individually and make sure that we are approaching insurers that have got the right solutions for you. What John was talking about earlier with a J-class. I'm not approaching the same insurer for a J-class and a Fed ship. Very different vessel. But you can approach the same insurer for a Seat or a Ferrari. Potentially, they'll both do it. So that's what's very important, is that's the thought process that go into it. Then we will give you an advice on which insurer you need to go with. Then when that advice is given, you make a choice. You bind your policy, you pay your policy. This is not finished because throughout the year, things are going to happen. I'm not talking about claims yet. I'm just talking about you might change the trading, you might go somewhere else, you might buy, we were talking about toys and tenders, you might buy a new tender, you might have, unfortunately, as it happens often, as captains watching and crew watching knows, some crew can get injured, crew get sick. All this, we here to assist throughout the course of the policy, and you'll have probably one or someone in the team of the same person that you bind the policy with are going to be helping you throughout the course of the policy. You're not going to be sent to a call center to handle your policy.
That is a really good point, and something that we really pride ourselves on. We founded the company on a basis of we're there to not only become partners with the client, but to be the strongest advocate for our client. So when there's a situation, you don't call an 800 number, you basically call one of us. Everybody gets access to my email and my phone. It stays on 24/7, as does Hugo, as does Estelle, as does the other 15 folks back in the United States. You need to get hold of us. We are available 24/7 and we do answer the phone. The only time you don't get me is if I'm on a 10-hour flight from the US, which I just completed a couple of hours ago. But very pleased to be sat here chatting with everybody. It's great.
We have another question, understandable question, although you may or may not be able to answer it. The question is from Ding020468.
Okie dokie.
Nice to meet you.
What is the highest value policy you have ever written?
Well, in a yacht value, 500 million as a whole value. Hugo, how about?
I don't know if I'm allowed to say, but yeah, no, a little bit over that, yes. Past $500 million of value.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay, so
Wow.
we're very familiar. If the yacht is 3 million, it's 300 million. It doesn't make any difference. We use the same standards. It's the same operating process.
Exclusive service. You know,
It's bespoke. I mean, it truly
It's
is.
bespoke
In a
service.
certain sense, yacht sales are very similar. Whether sometimes it's more difficult, as you know very well, to sell a little boat worth $300,000.
Yep.
It's more difficult to sell that than it is to sell something worth $30 million, because the $30 million yacht buyer is probably making $30 million purchases in his business on a regular basis.
Yep.
The guy spending $300,000, this is probably the biggest amount of money he's ever
Outside of his
spent on
house.
Yeah.
It's absolutely, and they're so emotionally involved in it.
Yeah.
Our job is whether you're buying the $300,000 yacht or you're buying the 30 million or 300 million, is to provide the same level of service, same level of support.
Now, we have a question from Johnny Erickson, who says, how does insurance differ between a charter yacht and if the owner is living on board full time? Now, I've recently, funnily enough, just filmed 2 yachts in which the owner is pretty much living full time on board. How does that influence?
It's a good question.
John,
You want to
it's
take
okay?
it?
Yeah,
go
absolutely.
ahead.
So we have to answer in 2 parts because it's 2 different types of insurance. If we insure the owner of the vessel, it's one insurance, and that's the one we've been talking about earlier, so damage, liability, and crew. If we insure the charterer, this is a different type of insurance, which I'll talk in a minute. But the yacht owner can absolutely live in their yacht. That is not gonna be an insurance parameter in the large yacht world for sure. And it's, as David just mentioned, it's quite common. But when we are talking about a charterer, someone that rent out a yacht, that's a different type of insurance. We've got specialist insurance that is going to cover the liability of a charterer, the damage that a charterer can cause to a vessel, because that does happen, or also the cancellation of your trip, because it's not your boat, you don't live on the board of the vessel, you have to come from somewhere to the vessel. With COVID, a lot of things can happen. So we also look after the cancellation of the trip to some extent. So it's 2 different type of insurance, but to answer the initial question, you can absolutely live on board your vessel.
And a little plug for us, because we are, that I know of, and I might be misspeaking here, but I don't believe so, because of our somewhat strong footprint in the United States, we are actually able to extend the same coverage. If you're going to take a trip cancellations, perhaps you charter yachts a lot, we provide a program that will cover you. It covers COVID, it covers 26 other named warranties, and we're able to provide it here in Europe, and we're really one of the few companies that's able to do that, because it's basically a US program. They allow us to write it because we write a lot of business.
Is that just for US clients?
No. It's for anybody worldwide.
So if I want to charter a yacht this Christmas in the Bahamas,
Yep.
I sign the contract, I put my deposit down, and then all of a sudden you can't fly to the Bahamas anymore because of COVID.
It
Do I
pays.
get all of my money back?
100%, period. And there are companies.
You heard it
that's
here
been in-
first.
Yes, indeed. And it's really pretty inexpensive for the scope of the coverage. You can add in the full cost of your charter, all of the extras, because you got the 20%
Yeah,
plus,
flights, yeah.
your flights, your hotels, whatever. You can roll it all into that. We give you a price. You like it, fine, bang. You bind coverage. It's in place. We've been very, very busy with that particular program.
Yeah, I should
In fact,
think
now
so.
we have one person who basically that's all she does.
Well, I mean, I think basically if you're about to book a charter, you'd almost be crazy not to do it.
Yeah. Whether you're paying $30,000 or you're paying, we have some charters that are, 1.5 million a week.
Yeah.
Either end of the scale, it doesn't matter. It's very sensible.
Now, Silter04
Okay.
asks a question that has absolutely nothing to do with insurance.
Yes, we do drink. I'm a Stella Artois fellow myself.
He said, but it's interesting just to get your perspective on this. Is jet drive the future, or will it still be a propeller? Is that still a good
Jet drive, no. I don't think that's a long-term solution. You're going to see far more pod drives, which are probably going to become more electric. I think you're going to see some huge advantages and advances in the electronic field with pod drives, because they're very efficient and they're pretty economical. I mean, they're very low maintenance. So I think that's more the way you're going to see. Any of the jet drive boats that are out there, typically the maintenance is considerably higher than any other vessel.
Actually, I heard from Lursen just about a week ago. They asked me to do a video for them at the Monaco show covering their fuel cell technology. And certainly, if any of you have seen the interviews I've done with Peter Lursen at the Lursen Live, and you know, Peter Lursen knows what he's talking about. And that's where he sees the future. He sees the long-term future in fuel cell technology. And I have to say, I think that's probably correct too. Working down, Carlos Trencamp, thanks for all the questions, Carlos. Do you have to insure your vessel, this is a good question. Do you have to insure your vessel in the nation where your yacht is registered and has that nation's flag, or can you look for insurance worldwide? If yes, which are the best nations to register and insure in?
That is a good question.
Yes, there's many answers. Have you got a couple of hours?
Yeah. Very briefly, typically, depending on your yacht, if you've got a yacht here in Monaco, France, it's very possible that yacht is going to be flagged in the Caymans or the Marshall Islands, the US Virgin Islands. There are lots of advantages to registering a yacht in a single entity LLC, but you know, you can live wherever around the world, right?
Yeah, and I would say that in today's market, and again, this evolves all the time, but in today's market, a yacht below 2 to 3 million is better insured in the local market, because the local insurers are going to have volumes of those vessels. Usually, if you are an individual and you're not buying the yacht under an LLC, you are bound, and insurers are, or insurance broker as well, are bound by the local laws. So sometimes there is some protectionism in some country where you have to purchase insurance from your own country, where you live, where the boat is registered. And to purchase insurance outside of your own country, you have to, the insurers will have to prove that there is no solution in your country. So it's a slippery slope on smaller vessel, and you're better insured in your home country. I'm thinking potentially of the USA or Mexico and places like that. And for larger vessel, like John said, Cayman Island flag and etc., as far as I'm aware, there is not yet a local requirement for insurance in the Cayman Island. No. Therefore, technically you can go to any insurer in the world that is able to insure your vessel.
That's super interesting stuff. And that's super
Thank
interesting.
You for the question.
Yeah.
That was great. That was very interesting.
Chris Hodson. I just lost this question and got it back again. So Chris, thanks for your question. Chris is another regular viewer who contributes a lot with questions and engagement. And he says, hi David and friends. What minimum qualifications are required to insure a motor yacht that's 30 to 60 feet, a powerboat level 2 day skipper yachtsman?
So are we talking about qualification to insure the vessel, i.e. the insurance broker, or are we talking about the operator?
I think let's answer both of those, both the vessel and the operator.
Right. In terms of, that's going to be very, very, very quick on the, in France, for example, to be an insurance broker, you need to be registered with the local regulator, which is called ORIAS, and it's controlled by another regulator called the SCPR that could give you access to the entire EU market, but you need to have some qualification in insurance. And that's pretty much the same. That's the same in the States, different bodies, and in many countries. Now, for the operator, do you want to answer the question?
For the operator, it's all about your experience. you know, the types of vessels that you've run, the number of years that you've been running them, maybe the distances that you've traveled, you know, what your yachting resume looks like. And that has a huge bearing on, first of all, what carrier is going to take you and what your premium's going to be. You know, something that happens quite frequently, we'll have somebody that was running a 25-foot, you know, runabout, which is great, and they do very well financially, and then they go and buy a 60-foot motor yacht and they want to run it. Well, there are not too many insurance companies out there that want to do it, particularly in the United States. And they're probably going to look for a licensed captain to be, you know, part of that solution for a given period of time, whether it's 6 months or 12 months.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So hopefully that helps. But it really is a little complex in terms, it's all about experience.
Now, totally different question this time, but no less interesting.
Okie dokie.
From Tech Genius. Thanks for this question, Tech Genius. Hi, David. Always love your channel. Thank you very much.
How much did you pay for that? I mean, come on.
What is the career path into yacht insurance? What are the perks of the industry?
Well, I'm currently in the presidential suite of the Meridian in Nice. Next week I'll spend a week in Cannes. The following week I'm going to enjoy the French countryside, and then of course I will work the Monaco show. Outside of the vast quantities of alcohol and red wine that we will consume, no, it's being very serious about it. It's a great profession. It's one that I never looked to enter into. It's a niche. You get a young gentleman such as Hugo here that came into it as a very, very young man and rapidly became extremely successful. I'm going to brag on the guy a little bit because I met him when he was working for, can I say which company you work? Yeah, of course I can.
Yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that. There's a P&I insurance carrier which is one of the very largest in the world called Steamship. And Hugo was brought on board to really build that out. He did so. He built a
yacht team, not the whole company.
No, the yacht. This is all yacht. But he undertook to do so. He then became the #1 P&I insurer in the United States and #2 worldwide. That's why he's on my team. Okay.
Now, really seriously, because a lot of people who watch this channel watch it because they want to get into the yachting industry.
Right.
So somebody wants to become a yacht insurance broker. Somebody wants to work with you guys one day.
Okay.
What is the career path that you would recommend?
So can I
You
that question?
yes, absolutely.
So basically, as we started, we were saying nobody really chooses to be in insurance. Some people end up in insurance. The reason for that is that you'll find on your path one day, you'll do a training on something and you'll find on your path sometime insurance. That's what happened for John, that's what happened for myself. But there is insurance school in France, there is in the UK as well. You can follow an insurance path by apprenticeship, and there is insurance diplomas. So in the UK it's called ACII, and a lot of Lloyd's.
ACII.
Correct, ACII. If you Google it, you should be able to find this insurance qualification. A lot of London underwriters, a lot of London claims handler, who we look up in London as the insurance market for benchmark. They have this qualification. It's a very tough qualification, but if you're looking at working in London, in the heart of the insurance industry, and I'm not only talking about yachting here, but if you're looking to work in the insurance industry, for example, start out in London and do that qualification, and you'll see that's going to open doors to many insurance branch, and you can come into yachting. There is many yacht underwriters in France. You have also the similar qualification to do insurance. There is no specific qualification for yacht insurance, as far as I'm aware. And again, that's as far as I'm aware. There is no specific degree that's gonna give you a qualification in yacht insurance. Now, but having an insurance background is very useful. But also experience in yachting. If you have been a sales broker, if you have been a charter broker, if you have been a yacht manager, all those jobs, you acquire skills and contacts that are gonna be useful to then service client on the insurance side. David and I and John were talking earlier about service. If you have that drive and that commitment to service to the client, I'm going to say to you, don't necessarily need an insurance background. You have the right mentality to be able to work on an insurance team. You'll get trained. A company like ourselves, we will train people to understand insurance and to be able to sell insurance, to be able to handle claims. We can train people to that. What's important in this industry is to have a strong commitment to service. Yeah. That is,
Tech Genius. I don't know how old you are at all, but I would imagine, as your company grows, you hear from some young guy or young girl who says, "I'm doing this course. I'm learning. I just want to reach out to you to let you know who I am."
Please do.
And shows a good attitude.
Absolutely.
And I don't think it's ever too early to let companies know that that's what you want to do. Get your training, make your contacts, but reach out to the companies like John's and let them know what you're doing.
Yeah, and we do it, honestly, we do it all the time. In fact, last week I hired 3 new employees. One of them extremely tenured and very specialized. The next lady has got about 8.5 years, again, very experienced within the yacht industry. And then we hired a young gentleman who is in his probably, I'm going to say, early 20s, has got about 18 months experience under his belt, but he's fully licensed. And we're going to bring him on and really bring him up to speed within the yacht segment. And he has an extremely bright future. And you can earn a very nice living. It's a nice lifestyle. We're around great people. I would say one of the biggest, if people say, what's one of the best things about your job? The people I meet. They are awesome. You don't meet too many not nice people in the yacht business. That's the best way I can put it.
You self-edited there.
I did. Yes, I did. Yes.
So the next question, again, may be a question you can't answer, but
Okay.
I'll ask
Go
it
for
anyway.
it.
It's Carlos Trenkamp. What is the weirdest stuff a yacht owner has ever insured and therefore increased the insurance significantly?
I've got one for you. A gentleman took a 268-foot yacht, put it into the yard, cut a huge hole in the hull, right in the center of the hull, and put a glass floor in it. Seriously. And now he has a glass bottom yacht, but it's 268
But
feet.
he must have had the classification society.
Oh yeah, I mean it cost him a lot of money
on the insurance.
And then he bought 2 submarines to go on it as well.
Fantastic. Glad we could answer that.
There you go. That's the best one I got for you guys.
I'm reading these questions out without pre-reading them,
Yeah,
so let's just see.
No, it's good.
Kill me Maximus. How does the process go for a smaller and privately made boat instead of from a certified yacht builder? Oh, this is good. Is it even possible? I don't know if it's a silly question. It's certainly not a silly question, and I'd like to learn. Thank you. So basically, putting that question down to its basics, yachts that haven't been classified by a classification society, how does that work with the insurance?
It really depends on the size of the vessel. What are we talking? I mean,
I think he said small boats. He said, smaller and privately made boats.
Yeah.
Oh, privately made.
Yeah, so it's building your own boat.
Yeah.
Building your own boat, and so that's come back to what I was saying earlier about local markets. this is not something where you're going to be able to insure it internationally, because there is going to be very little appetite from the big insurers to do that. You'll find solution, usually only liability insurance, and you're going to have to go and answer quite a lot of questions with your insurer. This is very specialized. Very few insurers do it, but solutions exist, but they are quite complex to find and could be rather expensive. So,
a storm of wrenches. I don't have Asperger's. That's the name. That's the name of one of our viewers who asked the question: who insures those tall ships?
Oh, major carriers around the world, and very often the way it's structured is there will be a lead on that particular piece of coverage, but there will probably be 8 or 10 or even more partners, if you like, that would assist in what we would term as a line slip, so that they build up 100% coverage. And then the insurance carriers, the people in that syndicate, can then actually purchase reinsurance, so that if something happens and they have to pay out, you know, a very large claim, they're not really bearing the whole brunt of it, because they'll look to the reinsurer to reimburse them, and then and there could be 3 or 4 levels behind it.
Yeah. By the way, are you okay to do a few more questions?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I have another. It's beer 30 at 6:30 for me.
Okay. Well, let's knock it on the head at 6:30.
6:30 is good with me.
That way we've done a full hour.
Yeah, that's
which is
and I've been up for 24 hours.
That's what I'm asking. So Carlos Trenkamp says, how is it with mega yachts, with helicopters, cars, quads, and so forth on board? Oh, it's a similar question that's already been asked. He's asking whether it's separate insurance. The helicopters would surely have separate insurance.
that's right. So when it's on the vessel, so when it's on the yacht, it becomes sort of cargo of the vessel. So if you've got a supercar in there, that becomes part of the vessel. You will still have its own damage policy. You will still have its own liability policy, but they have their own policy. It's insured separately. For example, a maritime insurer cannot insure an aircraft or an helicopter. A maritime insurer cannot insure a motor vehicle. So as soon as the vessel is taken off the vessel,
it's got its own insurance.
It's got its own insurance.
So I guess if I'm going to put my McLaren on the aft deck of my Explorer yacht, I'll give you a call.
Yeah.
Say, John.
Yeah.
And there will be an AP. There's going to be an upcharge, if you like, for that extra liability while it's there. But the moment it comes off the yacht onto the dock, then it's
no longer your
no longer part of
responsibility.
the yacht.
Now the Stomping Ground asks a question that's already been asked, but I'll read it out anyway. Did you work in the yacht insurance field since your career beginning? If not, how did you come into it? It seems like quite a specialised field. The Stomping Ground, if you, at the end of this, if you play the video back, at the very beginning, we discussed how they all started, so you can catch up with that. John Christie says bad lighting. It is what it is, John, I'm afraid.
It's very tough here in this presidential suite at the Meridian Hotel. That was a good plug, wasn't it?
It was very good. From time to time, the questions scroll down without me actually scrolling them. So I'm scrolling back up. Gee, I don't think we've ever had so many questions.
There we go.
It's
Insurance is
absolutely
interesting.
remarkable.
That's news. You heard it on David Steele's channel.
Absolutely.
Malcolm Laurie, he says, hi, can I ask, does the qualifications of the captain and the crew play a part in the cost of the insurance? Is a newly qualified captain to a more experienced in years, and in which area of sailing?
Absolutely. Typically the way it works in the yacht, and maybe this particular gentleman is a new captain. Typically how it will work, from once you become licensed, let's say you get your 100-ton license, you're going to work on a vessel that's within that category, and you probably have worked as a first officer or an engineer or so forth, and then you get your first ride, your first real ticket, if you like. then as you build the hours and experience, then you're going to get the opportunity to move to a slightly larger vessel. Typically between the 100 and 500 ton, there's quite a learning curve there, because you can go up a fair amount in terms of the size of the vessel. But the good news is it's something that happens, you know, every single day of the week. It's really, if you're a good captain, you're extremely valuable. A good captain is a captain who doesn't have losses. Okay, and that's a big part of it. So when the insurance underwriters look at it, you know, if you've been doing it for 3 or 5 years, but you have a clean record, there's no claims, other than, you know, little things do happen. We understand that. It's just a natural progression, and you know, it's like anything. You get to be the pilot, the captain on an aircraft by having a certain number of hours and no real incidents. You know, and the way they gauge a pilot as being good is you've got the same number of takeoffs as you do landings. If those balance out, you're pretty good.
So, Anthony McNabb. Yeah, it did nothing to do with insurance, but we'll ask your question anyway. Do you see a future where petroleum-powered yachts are a thing of the past?
Yes.
I think they're already a thing of the
Yeah,
past.
there is. Absolutely. Yep. Yeah, no question.
Yeah, I mean, petrol, you know, gas, as you'd say in the States, is not really used on yachts at all. Maybe some small power boats, but not really on yachts. It's all diesel. But as we were saying before, it's really going towards electric. Actually, again, mentioning Peter Lurson, he feels that even electric is what he calls a bridging technology, you know, diesel electric, for example, and that fuel cells is where it's at, or is where it will be at. Carlos Trenkamp, thanks for all these questions, Carlos. Okay, nothing to do with insurance again, but that's okay. Should the royal family have an active yacht again like the Britannia? If yes, who should construct it? And does a boat like the Britannia that's used as a museum insured as a yacht that cruises? There's somebody at the door. I'm going to answer it while... Oh, you're going to answer it? Thanks.
Man, what can we say? You could really start a bit of a fire with this, couldn't you? That's a hot potato. I would say this. I think it was very appropriate for the royal family to have a yacht in the past. Things have changed. The monarchy is changing in England, obviously, and so, you know, if they were to have another yacht, it probably needs to be on their dime as opposed to
The taxpayer.
the taxpayer. That's what I would say. I'd love to see another yacht. I think it would be absolutely wonderful, but I think it's something that they have plenty of money. They should just go buy one if they so desire.
Apparently, there's a very good video on YouTube about the royal yachts.
Yeah.
I think it's on the Yachts for Sale blog channel, so you can take a look at that. It's an old video, but I did it some time ago.
There you go.
Again, Carlos, is an eco-friendly yacht with less emissions cheaper to insure to get them marked? I'm reading this badly, but he says basically to get them marked more into eco-friendly yachts, or is it more, or the market's more into eco-friendly? Okay, no. So is it cheaper, and is that to encourage people to have eco-friendly yachts?
It really, I don't think it's evolved as of yet.
No.
It's not you know, most mega yachts are using, you know, very large diesel engines. Some are diesel electric now, but it's not something that's really come onto the radar. Will it? I'm sure it will.
Yeah, I think we can say to our underwriter partners, our insurance partners, perhaps to encourage owners, you should perhaps change your rating and offer a discount for owners that have made that step into a greener energy.
Yeah, you
and
planted a seed there, Carlos. Seed of an
could
idea.
be.
Absolutely.
You should come
Although
out for dinner with us, by the way, because you have so many questions. Because Carlos has another question. Is a boat insured against piracy, and does sailing those coasts, Venezuela and Somalia, for example, increase the policy fee? We've kind of answered that, but
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
By drastically
Yeah.
increase it quite a bit.
And you have to have special permission and a program put together, and lots of precautions in place.
Here's a good question. It's a very pointed question, this one, by Marcus. I don't know how you pronounce Wunsch or Wunsch, but Marcus. Why should an owner use a broker rather than place a contract directly at a marketplace like Lloyd's of London, which, if the owner wanted to, would also allow him to offset some of the insurance costs? Why use a broker?
Simply because you can't.
Oh, you absolutely can't.
You've got to come to us.
You can't go directly to a Lloyd's insurer. In Lloyd's, you have to be a certified Lloyd's broker. You cannot go directly to the insurer. Now, having said that, to answer perfectly to the question, on some of the smaller boats business, you can go directly to the insurers. You are able to quote online and get a quote. And one thing that you're gonna get one quote. The insurer is gonna tell you, here is what you're getting, buy it or leave it. Well, the difference by going, so the answer to your question is yes, you can. The reason for going via us is to have a panel of insurers. And one thing that we were saying about the service, but also we have a duty of care for this client and we need to provide an advice. So we will tell you, here is the policies we are getting for you. Go with this one because X, Y, and Z. Or if you prefer to do this, go with this one because of X, Y, and Z. This is an advice that you're getting, but you can, depending on the size of your vessel, you can absolutely go directly to the insurer.
So when you said you can't, you're talking specifically about Lloyd's.
Yeah, because they were talking
Lloyd's,
about Lloyd's
no.
here and Lloyd's
But
you can't.
If you're in the United States, you can go to Progressive, you can go to Travelers, there are lots of companies that you can go to directly.
Mm-hmm.
Your homeowner's policy in the United States, they're allowed to cover up to 27 feet. So if you have a vessel that is 27 feet or smaller, you can just tack it onto your homeowner's policy, which doesn't, you're not paying anybody a fee. But one thing I would say, when we're operating in our field, part of what we provide, do we earn a fee? Of course we earn a fee, but you're paying for the expertise, okay?
And the
This
advice.
grey hair, it took a while to get all this grey hair. This guy, it's starting. I think there's probably an awful lot of value for money because, first of all, if somebody puts you in a very cheap policy, when something goes wrong, they're not normally around to help you. When something goes wrong with any of our clients, and we don't put you with the most expensive carrier, we put you with the very best carrier that is A-rated. That just means that they're very financially stable. They're gonna pay out what is actually due, and we ensure you get every penny that you are due. Sometimes, we go over and above.
I think as well that time is our most valuable asset, and it doesn't matter how wealthy people are or how poor we are. How wealthy they are or how poor we are. Do you know what
Yeah, that's it. Absolutely.
We all have the same amount of time in the day at our disposition. Obviously, the monetary value of time for a wealthy person is significantly larger, and I don't think anybody would go to one carrier direct. They'd go to 3 or 4, and then they need to read through what the offer is to see if they're comparing apples to apples, and suddenly they've lost a day, 2 days, 3 days of their time.
Oh, yeah.
And sometimes it's not possible as well because the wording of insurers are very different, and you won't find that same spot, the same information, and the same wording, and you need to understand what you are buying. So that is also something that sometimes just cannot be necessarily done. It can. Yeah.
Well, we're almost at the 1 hour. I'm going to get
Absolutely.
one more question in, if that's okay.
Yeah,
and then we'll
make it a good one.
Well, they've all been good. They've all been good, and there's so
This has
many
been
more.
great, seriously.
Thank you for all the
Fantastic.
questions. That very much appreciated.
Really intelligent. I mean,
Oh.
absolute pleasure.
Okay. Actually, I saw a good one. I've just lost it.
That's okay.
Oh yeah, here we are. Chuck Johnson. Great conversation, he says.
Okay.
Thanks, Chuck. Are there things that yacht owners can do above and beyond the minimum standards of classification to reduce their insurance rate? What a great question. So I'm building my yacht. What should I ask the builder to do to minimize my insurance rate?
I would say you probably starts with the class of the yacht that you're going to build it to. There are several different classes out there. You know probably better than us in terms of that particular niche in the marketplace. So that's something that you would really look at. When you're building a yacht, make sure that the captain or your build manager, typically it's a captain that's assigned to a yacht on a build, really is qualified. Sometimes some terrible mistakes are made by people who are not fully qualified and they think they can do it, but there's no substitution, particularly in if you're making a very large investment, for the experience and expertise.
Yeah, I think what I would add to that, certainly class is extremely important, but having been an underwriter, I can tell you that the first thing, or one of the first things that most underwriters look at is where the boat has been built. If it's been built in one of the well-known shipyards, and I'm talking about perhaps yacht and super yachts here, that will go a long way with underwriters. That will mean that they'll accept more from that shipyard, from a maybe more adventurous design or engines or etc. We were talking about green engine earlier. That's a new technology. Some underwriters can be a bit cold-feeted about it. If you go to one of the very well-known shipyard for it, then they'll be a little bit more relaxed about it. Flag is very important. The experience of the flag with new build, but also as John mentioned, the class. This is criteria that are very important if you are thinking new build.
Excellent. Hugo, thank you very much. John, thank you very much.
Pleasure, my
David,
friend.
thank you very
so
much.
much indeed.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
This video stays online, so if you want to refer back to it for information about insurance, John and Hugo are both always very receptive to answer emails and phone calls from people looking to insure. I should also say a big thank you to Meridian, because they've been great and went over and beyond, because we actually wanted to film on the rooftop and it was them that said, no, don't do that, there's a lot of noise out there, it might not be so good, take the presidential suite. So yeah, thanks to Meridian.
Wonderful.
Thank you, and thank you all for your questions.
Wonderful.
Very much appreciated.
Thank you.